Not everybody's equal. LA is not perfect because it's too perfect, and Harvard is not perfect because it's too perfect. It's a very old wisdom that we didn't know. Americans don't get it. Oh, I'm going to become very rich and I'm going to be on the beach drinking all day. That's stupid. Why are you fighting? Why don't we make another school? We travel. We took the plane and we came to Tongji, and we're here ever since. We never left because it was the best thing. So Harvard has all kinds of students from all over the world. So you have the Chinese and the Koreans and the Japanese, which is the East Asia students. You have, of course, European students. There's a number of European students. There's a lot of Greek students who come. Mm-hmm. Sometimes their parents pay a lot of money to come here. Koreans are very famous for, they pay their whole fortune for my son to go to Harvard, right? They think it's a big deal, right? So this is like a famous, and Greeks also, because academic is a very prestigious in these countries, so they do everything. Like their parents will pay anything for the kid to go there.
Indian students?
Indian,
no?
Not that much.
Not a lot?
That I remember. There is a few, but just the normal numbers, no.
Do you still do the research about the computer vision or architecture thing?
No. That was antiquated at the time. I was always interested in the idea of creativity. How do you make creative things using mathematics? Because mathematics was my basic, base that I used as background. So at some point I was interested in algorithms, not necessarily a specific algorithm, but the idea of how do you organize your thoughts into a body of knowledge that has a consequential series of statements, like first I do this, then I do that, then I do that. So this was called algorithmic, and I wrote a book called Algorithmic Architecture, which became pretty famous because it covers not only the technical part of how to write an algorithm, but also the results of the algorithms, how they make buildings and structures and shapes and forms. But also there was a philosophical side to it. What does it mean to externalize your thoughts? How do you take an idea and you put it into a context of words, text, and this text is so objective or so precise that a machine who is only black and white can actually replicate your idea into the real world. Mm-hmm. And that was one part. And the second part was that if I am very able to extract my thoughts into a code, what if I twist the code? What if I put some random processes and I just play with my mind? In other words, I had this idea, but I twist it. So now it's not me who's twisting, but the machine is twisting my idea. So then I see a version of myself, which is a disturbed version or an adjusted version of myself. And that was a very interesting sort of philosophical argument because it gives you a reflection of yourself. Because code, in a way, is a reflection of yourself. It's a way that you externalize your thoughts into a machine that has no feelings for you. But yet, you have a feeling of yourself by reflecting yourself into that thing. So now if you can play with the reflection, you see a different person, a different you, right? Because you're seeing the waters moving around, so you become like more, I'm just giving you a analogy, but with the randomness, you deviate from the ordinary, predictable you. So that's not a mirror anymore. It's like a lake where the water is moving around. So that was one area that I was very interested in, which was the idea of stochastic, we call it like random unpredictability in the algorithmic process. And then there is another one, which was the exact opposite, which was the idea of extreme objectivity. And that I called it permutations, because in mathematics there is an area in probability which is referred to how many chances that something may happen. So, and you say like, oh, the chances are this and this and that. But if you go through all the possible chances, you cover all the possibilities that may happen, right? One of which is going to happen, but you don't know which one. But you know that these predictions say that they're going to be like, 200 possibilities, right? One is going to happen. But if you go into putting too many elements together, the probabilities increase exponentially. So you go into all the possible ways you can put, let's say, two things together. These are like 8 ways, right? This, that, up, down, right, all these possible ways. But if you go into many, many elements, you get into really, really complicated. So, for example, design is about putting things together, right? So I have, let's say, I don't know, like 10 elements, okay? And I want to put them into certain configurations, right? There's a set number, a precise number of configurations you can have, right? So you can put in all possible ways, okay? These possible ways are all the possible designs you can do. No more. Only this. Because, yeah, because if, let's say you have, take this two in front of us, we have two glasses, right? We can put them in either this way or the opposite way, right? There's no other way. So if we're going to design this table for two glasses, it's going to be only two possibilities, right? Or let's say four possibilities, or nothing, one on this side, one on that side, two together, or two on the opposite side, right? These are the five possibilities you can put them together, right? But this is the design of this very primitive thing. Now, if you have three, it gets more possibilities. If there are four cups, you have four possibilities of configurations of how you put them into the table. So in design, in let's say architecture, you have, let's say, columns, and you have, let's say, rooms. So if you, walls. These are elements, okay? So you have a wall, you have a window, you have a door, and you have just a wall. And you can put them in four directions, like in a room, right? So if you have certain sizes that you can put them and certain program that you can put them. So if you put all the possible combinations, you have all possible houses you can make. One of which is the best one.
Because the optimized.
The optimized, the one that has the best, whatever best means. That's the question that we have. So I thought that this is a very interesting idea because now I'm not interested in the specific talent. Some architect who decides I think this is the best. And how do we know this is the best? Because you think so? Or we ask the judges, still there may be a better one, which nobody knows. How do we find that better one? We have to go through all the possible combinations, and somewhere there, we're certain there's going to be the best one.
So we just give them the score?
So you have to find a way to extract from the best. So now we don't go from nothing to something. We go from everything to something. So it's the opposite way. So now we have to find a way to eliminate the ones that make no sense or the ones that are not good. So we go the opposite now. We're not looking for the best. We're looking for the worst to eliminate. Right? So that's where I started getting into AI. And at that point, I devised a methodology that would extract the best one based on some mental criteria. So I produced a neural network. A neural network is basically a way that you can train it to do certain decisions. So I trained it onto a person saying what likes and what they don't like. So by doing like or not like, it was training itself to know what you like. So I take this neural network and I present it with all the possible combinations with 1 billion possibilities. It goes, says, this, no, yes, no, yes, right? Because it's based on what I would have said had I had the time to go through all of them. So now I come up and says, okay, based on what I know, I think you would like only these 5. And then you look at them and say, these are very good, all of them. One of which is better than I would ever think. Right, and it's better than the architect who proposed me to do it, and the judging, the jury said. So that way, it was a very different way of looking. That was at Harvard. I wrote a book on it. It was called Permutation Design, and that was my Harvard kind of like ideas. But then, at some point, another thing happened strange in my life. I got married. So at the end of the time that I was at Harvard, I married my wife. She had a company, and she was a design company. And it was a very successful company in Harvard, not Harvard, in Cambridge, basically. She was a Harvard, actually, graduate. We never met in Harvard. We met outside of the school. She was not my student, but she was there before I came. But she started this company, and then when I met her, she was she was running the company that she had, was a design company. And at that point, we got married, and I was involved with her company, and I had some ideas about high tech, and she was supporting that. So I did a startup company, which was about parking from all things, because the reason why I was parking, because I was also at the same time I was advising a company in Japan who does traffic simulation. One of my UCLA students, graduate PhD students, who was Japanese, became a professor in Arizona. And then after that, he was, as a Japanese, he was involved with high tech in Japan. And one of the companies that he was working and talking was this company who he introduced to me. So I was familiar with traffic and how things work. So when I was in the company and we brainstormed, the idea of parking came up as like, how do we find a way to help people find parking? And at that time, the cell phone came out, the smartphones, which allow you to find the GPS location of where you are. So we thought this makes sense. Now we can find parking through tracking people who have cell phones so they can talk to one another to inform other people where to find parking in order to optimize the traffic in the city. Because most cars right now are just running around trying to find parking. Well, if they know where the parking is, they wouldn't run around. They wouldn't waste time and energy to look for parking when there is parking, but you don't know where it is, right?
That's also called LBS service, the location-based service software.
Well, I mean, that was the idea, and then we had to write the whole software, the servers, the software, the interface, the interaction. What happens if somebody doesn't show up? What if somebody is, starting to abuse the other person? Because it was a social service, right, at that point, and it was new. Nobody knew about them. So we did all the possible combinations. We did tests. We did, of course, all the technical, running on Android, running on iOS, user interface libraries, blah, 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 the servers, the back end, front end, this kind of stuff is pretty complicated. At that time, we didn't know. We didn't have there was no AI to tell us what to do. We had to do everything by scratch. That was 2011, 12 that I started the company. But then there is another part that we never thought about, which is related to social groups. For example, I mean, not everybody's equal. I mean, even if it's a democracy in America, not everybody's equal. So, for example, an old person cannot drive the same as a young person, okay? And those who have cell phones are more advantaged than those who don't have cell phones. So when we finished this and we tried to launch it, we had some pilot programs, and we said, okay, let's try and test it and see how it works. So we did our tests with our own people. We gave it to other people to test it, and it worked perfectly okay. I mean, in Cambridge. Yeah.
In Cambridge, New England area.
Yeah, New England area. So you were like, basically the idea is that you are, you want to go somewhere at some time, and then you say, okay, is somebody there who's living around the time that you're coming? So if you find somebody who's leaving that time, then you can actually make a deal with that person. When you leave, I'll take your parking spot. So you wait for me for a small amount of money. So then I come and you give my parking spot to you. So we swap basically cars.
So you mean the parking spot is not the public parking space?
It could be public or private. Yeah, then we would have to make a deal with the parking structure that inside the parking lot you can switch. But usually that's not the case. Public is more important because that's where you have a problem. You want to park on the street, whether with a meter or without a meter. Still, you need a parking spot in the city. So you're leaving, I'm coming. Why don't we just make a deal and I'll pay you? Because otherwise I'll have to pay much more money to move around and find my own parking. You just get like some money for leaving and waiting for me, and then I come and take your parking spot, right?
So the payment is about the offline payment, it's not online payment.
The payment happens online. I mean, you basically say I'm leaving at this time, right? And then I'm looking around for this place, that area, and that time, and I say, oh, this guy looks, and you say like I'll do it for like $2, okay? So I said, $2 is better than $20 I would pay for a parking lot, right? If I don't find, because I'm in a hurry, I have to go fast. So I say, okay, I click, okay. So you get a message that, okay, I'm available. So you say, okay, 5:30, I'm going to leave anyway. You send me, then we have an SMS connection, and you say, "Are you ready?" "Yeah, I'm around. One more minute, I'll be there." Right, and then you wait. Okay, I'm the one with the number, blah blah blah, and I'm the like a Didi, right? And and you say, "Okay, I get off. You get in. You take my parking spot." Right? That's how it works. Of course, there's many problems because maybe somebody else is there and wants to take that spot. How are you going to make sure that you take the other one? They would say they're going to start fighting. Or let's say you come late, or you cancel, you don't come. Then what happens? These are all the problems that we solve. But we're thinking about normal people. When we presented that to the city of Cambridge or of Boston, they had different problems. Their problem was not about that. Their problem was about discrimination. In other words, they said that this program will not work in Cambridge because there are a lot of old people, and old people don't know how to use cell phones. So all the young people are going to take all the parkings, and they have with no competition. So that's not good. And we're like, oh, we never thought about that. So then we said, okay, then we can do it that we can reduce the number of parkings that we take. So 50% of the street we have access, but the 50% doesn't work. We did this kind of thing.
You left the other parking spots for the elder people.
Yeah, but they didn't want to do it. They just basically found all kinds of problems. So what happened is that there was another company at the same time that we were supposed to launch. That was 2016, 17. And that other company came to Boston to launch it. So it was competition to us. In a way, we didn't know. And they got stopped by the city. Okay? The city said you cannot do it because of the old people, right? So they sued the city.
The government?
And they got into the court. And they went through some back and forth, and eventually they lost. So the Cambridge said, we don't want you here.
So the governments have the very good policy for taking care of the elder people.
Yeah, but they don't really find parking for them. But they want to make sure that it's equal so that nobody complains. That was their problem, right? So this other company came to us and said, why don't we work together? Because now we can, because you have a very good software and we don't have that much good software, we can work together. So we tried to do it, but it didn't work at the end because the city is too powerful. They wouldn't let us do it.
But all the software are really good to use for young people.
Yeah, but that was 2016. That was a different culture back then. At that time, even now, they're trying to do it. They still cannot do it. It's not that easy. But anyway, that was a good thing because that allowed me to come to China. If it was successful, I would have stayed in America. But now, because of that, and because my wife's company, we're going to change the system, the way she did business, and I also failed doing the parking. Well, in America, but because we sold it to Japan. Japan, they were okay. They bought the idea back then, so we got the money back. But that was for the Japanese version of it. But the American didn't work. So that was like a down, we couldn't do that. And my wife also's company was downsizing. So 2017 was a kind of like a transitional time that we were supposed to start something new in America. But for some reason, strange reason again, fate, I made a phone call to the professor who was the dean of the school here in Tongji, Lo. Out of the blue, because one of the projects that we were supposed to do at that time was involving China and America. And we were supposed to go to Shanghai and stay there for like a few weeks, maybe like a month or two. I thought, since we're going to go to Shanghai, let me talk to the people that I know. And I said, we're going to be there for a few, let's meet, let's have some coffee. And, since I'm going to be there, and we talk about what we do all the time, because every time I come to Japan area, when I was in Harvard, my students told me, oh, come to see us, come and give a lecture. So I was always familiar with Shanghai because I came many times to meet, Xiaohua was one of the professors but she was a student in MIT. Jeff was a student at Harvard. He was there. And other students that were also part of the Harvard cycle. And that's when I met also Lo, before he became the dean. So 2017, summer, I call Lo, and he says, really? You're coming? Well, guess what? Tomorrow I'm going to be in MIT. We have a meeting. Just a coincidence, right? We have something else that I'm doing, and I'm flying tomorrow. So let's meet in MIT. So sure enough, we met in MIT, and he told me, well, if you're going to come to Tongji, why don't you come as a professor? Why do you come in like as a business and temporarily? Just come and teach there. We like these people like you. I'm like, I don't know, maybe yes. I mean, what about my wife? He says, like, we make her professor too. I'm like, really? So, wow, that's interesting. So now, I mean, because she's good. I mean, she also has a Harvard degree. I mean, it's not like she's making a favor. And he knew her too. So then so I said, yeah, what about insurance, these things that we have here? Oh, we do this kind of thing too. I said, this is too good to be true. Let's say, okay. He actually, within a day, he called Tongji. They give us a contract. So in one day, I had a contract in front of me. And she had a contract in front of her. And everything that we asked, they said, okay.
This is China speed.
Yeah, so I was like, this is too good to be true. Let's do it. I mean, so we actually closed the house. We had a very nice house in Lexington, temporarily.
Lexington, I know that place.
And it was only for 1 year. I told him, we just stay 1 year because we don't know what's going on, right? So we traveled. We took the plane and we came to Tongji, and we're here ever since. We never left because it was the best thing. I mean, after 1 year, then we had a normal contract, and then it became like, I'm a professor in Tongji. And I can tell you this was the best decision I ever made in my whole life. Coming to China at that time, the right place, the right people, and it was the right decision.
God bless you.
Yeah, I mean, I can always say that. Even Harvard was a good school. It was too, I mean, after a few, like I said, after like some time, too good is not good anymore. Same as LA, same thing, LA is not perfect because it's too perfect, and Harvard is not perfect because it's too perfect.
Happiness is a warm gun.
And then eventually you go to China where nothing is perfect, and that's why it's perfect. Because it's the exact opposite. Like you always see something you have to do, something that is different, something you have to improve, and that actually keeps you always into a mood of creativity, and you always
refreshing.
So it's perfect in a way.
You're never tired of anything.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very old wisdom that we didn't know. Americans don't get it. They always have this false impression that, I'm going to become very rich and I'm going to be in the beach drinking all day. That's stupid.
So Americans look like so too aggressive.
It's not aggressive. It's a lack of knowledge about how life is. They think they're like kids. Oh, give me a sweet, give me a candy. And if I have a candy, I'll be happy forever. No, if you have candy after 2 days, you're going to be sick. But they don't think about it because Hollywood always thinks like at the end of the movie, the guy is rich and he has a margarita and he's drinking by the beach, and this is the end of the movie, but this is happy forever. That's not forever. And I had that. I had the experience of being perfect, and I tell you, it doesn't work. The other word works better. You are always looking for something, and that makes you happy because you're not perfect. You're looking for perfection, and that's what perfect is.
Find something new.
Exactly. So China is more the old wisdom. I don't know, maybe people don't agree with me, but that's what I experienced from my limited understanding of the philosophy of China, is that we say the opposite of good is not bad, is better. If you want something better, you're always searching for something, and you're on hold about you updating yourself. Yeah, there's nothing good. There's something called better. The better makes you do things that you want, and that's something that I learned from the Chinese wisdom.
Yeah, so this philosophy is that you're experiencing too good to stay in America, or when you have this kind of thought when you came to China.
I mean, it's a paradox in a way, because you are trying to get something, and that something is always moving away from you. So you're always searching for something, right? This could be interpreted as a bad thing because you're like basically chasing something you're never going to get. But on the other hand, the process of chasing makes you happy. So there's two parts to this argument. Is that the one is that you are looking for the thing, the terminal part, the target. okay? And the target is always moving. So he's always unhappy because you not get it. But on the other hand, the fact that you're moving and you're searching makes you happy because the process is more interesting than the journey is more interesting than the target.
So it is also called a dilemma.
Right. You can call it a dilemma if you want to, depending on from which point of view you see it. Okay. I saw it from, I'm Greek. So Greeks, we have another wisdom, which is similar to Chinese, but it's different in nature. We're more ambitious than Chinese are in the personal basis, but we're very non-materialistic, ideological. So the Greeks are more interested in ideas. Like if you have many friends and if you are well respected, that's wealth. Money is not important in the Greek. In China, money is important, but also, there is a limit to the money that you have. So it's more like relationships and family and also, money too. Because they're practical people, more practical than Greeks are. But they're opposites in a way. And I think that is a good, if you can do both, which I'm trying to do, it's the perfect combination of things. So basically at Tongji University, which is basically a strange school because the School of Design is not really a per se design. It was a school that started as a spin-off of the architecture school. So if you're familiar with Media Lab in MIT, Media Lab MIT was a school that was a spin-off from the architecture school. So back in 1990s, Negroponte, he thought that the architecture people are too rigid. They always talk about buildings. So he said, and many people in the architecture community wanted to do things that are not architecture, like CAD, gaming, VR, that kind of stuff. So he said, why don't we make another school? So they made the Media Lab. The same thing happened in Tongji in 2008. There was the CAUP. It's called the College of Architecture and Urban Planning, CAUP. And that school is architecture, per se. And it's very successful, one of the best in the world, actually, which makes all these buildings that you see in Shanghai all over China. It's the build. There's always the people who are interested in, the architects who are interested in things that are not building, like CAD, computer, like tools for design, which is also design, but they're not building. Or there is like VR, how we see the world in a virtual environment. Or gaming, how do we do gaming? Because gaming has a lot of architecture elements inside of it, right? But the architects, no, this is not building. We should not waste our time in these kind of things. So back then, the president of the university in 2008, he said, why are you fighting? Why don't we make another school? So those who want to do these kind of things, the crazy stuff, they go into another building. And those who want to do architecture, which is good, they do it in the architecture school. Perfect, right? Why fight? That's the Chinese way, right? Win-win.